4 cleaning women were tested with 4 black credit cards from a billionaire. He was stunned by what the black cleaning lady purchased. Jessica, the blonde cleaning lady, said, "Are you sure you want to include she in this test?" as she pointed subtly to Kesha, who was diligently washing the office mirrors as usual. Oliver Blackstone, heir to a $2 billion real estate fortune, used surveillance cameras to monitor his 4 housekeepers in the executive office. He had grown suspicious of the real motives of people around her by the time he was 35. Instead of seeing her as a person, everyone seems to simply see her money account. He said, "I need to know who these women really are," to James, his assistant. "I'm going to give each of his credit cards with no limit for 72 hours. No rules, no restrictions. Just watch what she does when she thinks no one is looking." The strategy was straightforward. Jessica, the cleaning women's self-declared leader, frequently discussed her financial struggles. The youngest, Amanda, was always complaining about her poor pay. The veteran Rita would frequently remark on her opulent fantasies. And Kesha never made a request. 28-year-old Kesha Washington had discovered early on that black girls from the suburbs get nothing for free. Throughout her 3 years as a cleaner at Blackstone Tower, she consistently arrived 2 hours early and left last. Her co-workers saw her lack of desire because, in contrast to the others, she never voiced complaints about her job or requested raises. "Have you noticed that? He will hand out business cards to each of us." During the break, Amanda excitedly whispered, "I'll be able to purchase the boots I spotted in the window at last." Jessica rolled her eyes. The fact that this is a test is clear. He is interested in determining who will act appropriately and who will get unruly. He glanced over at Kesha. "There are folks here who have never handled money. They could make a stupid move." Without replying, Kesha went on to arrange her cleaning items. She seemed to know exactly what she would do with this chance because of the almost unsettling calm in her gaze. Their responses were telling when Oliver summoned them all to personally accept his card. Jessica calculated her purchases in her head while grinning courteously. Amanda was giddy with anticipation. Rita, who was already organizing a home improvement project, thanked him profusely. Last was Kesha. She took the black card and took a moment to look at it. "I have a question for you, Mr. Blackstone. Naturally, do you want to test our greed or our honesty?" Oliver was momentarily surprised. She was the only one of the 4 to understand the genuine purpose of the experiment. "Do you ask why?" "Because everything is altered by the response." Kesha placed the card in her plain handbag. "Sincere people take advantage of opportunities to do good. Smart people," she paused, "use them for both, whereas greedy ones use them for themselves." Oliver experienced a sensation he hadn't had in years as Kesha left the room. Sincere interest in what someone will do next. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this tale about how prejudice can blind even the smartest people. What Kesha did with that card over the course of the following 3 days would alter not only her own life, but also a billionaire's understanding of what true human value is. Oliver's first 24 hours were filled with both a surprise he most definitely didn't expect and exactly what he expected. Jessica immediately went to Nordstrom, posting pictures of her purchases to Instagram with the hashtags #blessed and #finallydeserved. Rita bought a 75-inch TV and a leather sofa, already planned how she would dazzle her neighbors. Amanda spent $800 on items at Forever 21 and posted photographs in the dressing room with the message, "When you work hard, you deserve to treat yourself." However, Kesha just vanished. Where on earth is she? As he studied the transaction reports, Oliver murmured, "No purchases were noted. The card shows no activity." "Are you certain her card is functioning, James?" "Sir, we put it to the test 3 times. The card is in use." Meanwhile, the talk in the staff locker room took a predictable path. "Did you notice that Kesha hasn't made any purchases yet?" Jessica pretended to arrange his new locker while whispering to the others. "She probably doesn't even understand how to use the card." Amanda gave a sarcastic laugh. "Or she worries that they'll keep track of her purchases." "You are aware of the situation. There are those who have a dark past. Rita cautioned you to watch what you said." However, His tone betrayed less sincere defense and more fear of retaliation. "We may be heard by her." "What the heck?" Jessica gazed at the door to the toilet where Kesha had gone. Everyone is aware that quotas are the only reason she was hired. She probably doesn't even know where to begin now that she's holding actual money. Kesha heard all that was said in the bathroom. She had discovered at the age of 28 that certain conflicts weren't worth the effort, particularly when one was reserving ammunition for a more significant conflict. After her parents perished in a car accident when she was 8 years old, Kesha Washington was raised by her grandmother, Dolores, on the East Side slums. 3 positions were held by Dolores: taking care of the elderly at night, cleaning during the day, and doing laundry for neighbors on the weekends. Dolores used to exclaim, "Kesha girl," while ironing a garment at 2 in the morning. Whatever they do to you out there is irrelevant. What he does when no one is looking is what counts. True character emerges there. After years of weariness, Dolores suffered a stroke and passed away when Kesha was 22. Kesha made a quiet vow at the funeral. She would eventually utilize her position to support women like her grandmother, who toiled tirelessly for incomes that were insufficient to pay their rent. Oliver ultimately found out where Kesha had disappeared to on Monday of the following week. Sir James said as he walked into the office, looking perplexed, "Kesha's card transactions have begun, but they're strange. You need to see this." Oliver accepted the report. $847 for community market grocery store, $312 at the Dollar Tree school supply store, $156 for diabetic and high blood pressure medications at CVS pharmacy, $423 for children's clothes, medicine. Is she ill? No, sir. We conducted a covert investigation. She purchased items for her community members, elderly individuals without health insurance, families unable to pay for prescription drugs, and kids in need of school materials. Oliver remained quiet as he took in the information. There's more, James added. She rented a room at the community center in her neighborhood. It appears that she is planning an event for this weekend. Jessica marched resolutely towards Oliver's office while he processed this information. Through a friend who worked at the bank, she had learnt of Kesha's dubious purchases. She had the ideal ammunition now. Blackstone, Mr. with the most phony smile she could manage. Jessica knocked on the door. "Can I speak with him? It has to do with the experiment he is conducting." "Enter. I don't want to be a snitch, but I believe you should be aware of this. Kesha is making odd purchases with the card. Industrial amounts of food and medications. Given that it's business money, I'm not sure if it's appropriate." Oliver looked at Jessica for a moment. "Furthermore, what precisely do you believe she is doing?" "I'm not sure, but he occasionally lacks a sense of boundaries, which is why people like her. She may be selling the items or putting them to other uses. You ought to investigate it before it becomes worse. People like her," he said, echoing like a gunshot throughout the office. Oliver quietly answered, "I see. I appreciate you being concerned, Jessica. I'll investigate." When Jessica had gone, Oliver looked at James. "On Saturday, I would like a covert security detail to accompany Kesha. What exactly she's intending, I must know." "James, isn't it a bit intrusive, sir? Either Jessica is correct and he is the biggest fool in Chicago, or this woman is truly accomplishing something incredible. In any case, he must learn." 3 streets away, in the basement of the community church, Kesha was meticulously arranging stacks of supplies and prescriptions, like a general getting ready for combat, while Oliver plotted his surveillance operation. What number of families have verified that they will be there? Donna Rosa, a 73-year-old lady she had known since infancy, was the person she asked. There will be 42 families, children, and more. Word spread that you received blood pressure and diabetes medication. Kesha grinned, but there was a resolve in her eyes that went much beyond mere altruism. Helping her community wasn't the only thing she had planned for that Saturday. It was intended to highlight the distinction between people who merely talk about values and those who truly practice them. As she arranged the drugs that would save lives in that forgotten community, Kesha briefly let herself picture Jessica's expression when she realized that her attempt at sabotage had only provided Kesha with the ideal fodder for something far more ambitious than either of them could have ever dreamed. When Kesha got to work on Thursday morning, she discovered that things had become worse. "I have to speak with you, Kesha." Oliver smiled like a cat that has just swallowed a canary as he called her into his office, Jessica by his side. Oliver said icily that his credit card access will be closely watched from now on. Jessica's concerns over the improper usage of resources are valid. Kesha gave Jessica her full attention. "What specifically are you worried about?" Jessica pretended to be embarrassed. "Although we don't want to suspect her, purchasing excessive amounts of food and medication can raise suspicions. Perhaps you ought to prioritize your own needs, just like the other girls did." Worried. Slowly, Kesha repeated the words. "Therefore, it is suspicious to help sick people, but it is not suspicious to spend $1,000 on selfies." "It's not about that," Oliver said, obviously uneasy. "Transparency is the key. I must know exactly where every dollar is going." Kesha, of course, stayed perfectly composed. "Do you desire openness? I can offer a thorough beneficiary list, all receipts, and evidence of purchase." "Is that too much information though?" Jessica and Oliver looked at each other anxiously. Instead of providing thorough documentation, she had anticipated defensiveness from Kesha. Oliver stumbled. "Well, that would be helpful." "Excellent. Tomorrow, I'll have everything prepared." Kesha started to go out the door, but stopped. "Jessica, just one question. Did you discover any concrete proof of wrongdoing when you looked into my transactions using his connections at the bank? Or did you simply think it was odd to see a black woman spending money on other people?" The ensuing hush was deafening. Kesha, meantime, got a call at the community center that would alter everything. "Marcus Thompson from the IRS Special Investigations Division here." Kesha. His heart raced when he heard the rich voice on the other end of the queue. "I need to discuss recent credit card activities with you." "Don't worry, sir. It isn't what you believe. Actually, the reverse is true. Oliver Blackstone has been the subject of our months-long investigation into possible tax fraud and dubious labor practices. We were positively impacted by her transactions." Marcus clarified that the financial monitoring system had informed him about Kesha's humanitarian purchases. "It is uncommon to see someone with limitless riches use them in this manner." It made me pause and reflect. "Have you heard about Blackstone's activities?" Kesha gently sat up. "I am aware of some details. His card is on its way. I can guarantee that any information he gives would be handled with the utmost confidentiality. And if you're interested in speaking, it might be very beneficial to our investigation." Kesha stood motionless for a few minutes after the call. She was contacted by Donna Rosa, who had heard some of the exchange. "This is serious, Mia. I'm being serious, Donna Rosa. How will you respond?" For the first time in days, Kesha grinned. "I'm going to do the right thing, just like I always have. However, I'm going to get expert assistance this time." As she arranged the receipts she would present to Oliver that evening, Kesha saw something intriguing in the thorough bank statements she had asked for. The transactions of Rita, Amanda, and Jessica displayed odd trends: purchases that were promptly followed by returns, account transfers, and other actions that raised suspicions of money laundering. She took pictures of every page and forwarded them to Marcus Thompson. The response was received in a matter of minutes. "That's precisely what we were searching for. Is it possible for us to meet tomorrow?" On Friday, Kesha was sitting across from a federal investigator who had just validated her worst assumptions in a downtown cafe while Jessica brags to the others about how she put Carr in her place. "There is a documented history of employment discrimination at the Blackstone Company," Marcus said, passing a folder across the table. "Pay disparity depending on race for equal job. Selective terminations. We now have proof that the trend persists thanks to our credit card trial." Years of collected data were visible when Kesha opened the folder. The figures validated what she had always suspected but had never been able to prove. "There's more." Marcus continued. "Suspicious activity on the other employees' cards suggests a much larger scheme. She may be being used to launder company money through fake purchases, Did Jessica know? Unlikely. She probably thinks she's just spending free money. But someone higher up in the company was counting on it. Kesha absorbed the information. What do you need from her? Keep doing exactly what you're doing. Use the card to help her community. Document everything and keep us informed of any pressure or retaliation. You have become our key witness in a federal investigation. What if he tries to fire me? Marcus smiled. Firing a protected federal witness in retaliation would be the worst mistake he could make. In fact, it would be the final nail in his coffin. When Kesha returned to work on Friday afternoon, she found Jessica waiting in the locker room with a malicious smile. So, did you bring the receipts like you promised, or are you going to make up some excuse? I brought them. Kesha handed over an organized folder. Every penny documented, every beneficiary identified, every purchase justified. Jessica flipped through it quickly, clearly looking for something to criticize. And all this expensive food seems excessive. Expensive food. Kesha laughed. Jessica, you spent more on a single handbag than he spent feeding 40 families. But that's okay. We all have different priorities. He spent his money on personal things as expected, sure, and I spent mine saving lives as documented on every receipt you just saw. Jessica realized she had lost ground. Oliver will want to talk to you about this on Monday. Perfect. Kesha packed up her things because I have a few things to discuss with he too. As she left the building, Kesha received a message from Marcus. Surveillance team confirmed for Monday. Everything will be recorded. Good luck. Kesha looked at Blackstone Tower for the last time as a vulnerable employee. On Monday, she would return as something completely different, a woman armed with the truth, protected by the federal government, and ready to show that underestimating people like her had been the biggest mistake that company could make. For a moment, when she disappeared into the rush hour crowd, she looked like just another worker heading home after a hard day. But anyone watching closely would have noticed something different in his stride. The quiet confidence of someone who finally holds all the right cards and knows exactly how to play them. Monday, 8 a.m. Oliver was in his office when he received a call that would change everything. Mr. Blackstone, this is Special Agent Marcus Thompson, Internal Revenue Service. I need you to remain in your office. We'll be there in 15 minutes. Oliver hung up the phone with his hands shaking. James, cancel everything. We have a problem. Meanwhile, in the locker room, Jessica was organizing her final strategy. Today is the day, she whispered to Amanda and Rita. We're going to show Oliver who Kesha really is. I have evidence that she used the money for her own benefit. Kesha arrived at exactly 8:15 a.m., carrying a neat briefcase and the same calm smile she always wore. Jessica intercepted her in the hallway. Kesha, Oliver wants to talk to you immediately. And this time, I hope you have better explanations. I do, Kesha replied simply. In the office, the tension was palpable. Oliver was visibly nervous. Jessica radiated malicious confidence. And Kesha seemed strangely serene for someone about to be confronted. Kesha, Oliver began, concerns about your card usage have intensified. Jessica has brought up some serious issues, like the fact that you purchased expensive medications for supposed beneficiaries who may not even exist. Jessica interrupted, placing a folder on the table. I have here a list of all her suspicious purchases. Interesting. Kesha nodded softly. Could I see it? Kesha grinned as she flipped through the sheets. You've done your homework, Jessica. Yes, I did spend $2,347 for diabetic and hypertension medications. She raised her head. Mrs. Johnson, 73, had no health insurance when her employer, where she had worked for 30 years, reduced her retiree benefits. She had been diabetic for 15 years. Jessica scowled. She didn't anticipate that. What about the groceries that cost $843? Jessica demanded that the Rodriguez family be included. 3 young children and a father without a job for 6 months. Would you like the addresses? I have all the paperwork. At that moment, the door opened and 2 federal agents followed Marcus Thompson inside. Marcus apologized for interrupting and displayed her ID. Internal Revenue Service Agent Thompson. Time for a conversation, Mr. Blackstone. Oliver's face went white. What is it about? Concerning money laundering through corporate cards, racial discrimination in the workplace, and tax avoidance. Marcus gave Jessica a stern look while discussing how certain staff were unintentionally employed to transfer money. The quiet was overwhelming. He glanced at Kesha. Miss Washington has been very helpful. Marcus went on, we've had an investigation going on for months. Fortunately, we've secured a cooperative witness. Jessica got up suddenly. Witness to what? Kesha, I recorded our conversation on Thursday. Kesha said calmly, picking up her cell phone. When you said that people like me don't know the limits and that I was probably selling the drugs. The recording echoed around the office. Jessica's voice clear and cruel. People like her sometimes don't understand the limits. Maybe she is selling the stuff. And I also documented the suspicious activity on your 3 cards, Kesha continued, handing a folder to Marcus. Purchases followed by immediate returns, transfers to offshore accounts. Typical money-laundering patterns. Oliver tried to speak, but Marcus interrupted him. Mr. Blackstone, you have the right to an attorney. But first, you need to understand the gravity of the situation. Marcus turned to the room. Jessica Williams, Amanda Costa, and Rita Santos. You are under investigation for unwitting participation in a money-laundering scheme. And you, Mr. Blackstone, for documented racial discrimination, tax evasion, and misuse of employees for illegal activities. Jessica staggered. I didn't know anything about money laundering, I just spent the money. Exactly as they expected you to, Marcus replied. But her attempts to harm Miss Washington turned her from a victim into a knowing accomplice to discrimination. Oliver finally found his voice. Kesha, why didn't you tell me about your suspicions? Kesha stared him straight in the eye. Because when the evidence of corruption came to light on Thursday, you chose to believe Jessica instead of defending me. A man who doubts someone's honesty for 3 seconds doesn't deserve to know his secrets for 3 years. The truth hit Oliver like a bullet. He had lost not only an exemplary employee, but a person of integrity who could have been a powerful ally. Marcus concluded, Miss Washington, thank you for her cooperation. From this point on, the matter will be handled by the FBI. Expect to hear from our lawyers, he said, glancing at Oliver. As the agents left with Jessica in custody, Oliver remained alone with Kesha for a moment. Did he plan all this? He asked, defeated. I didn't plan to be discriminated against. I didn't plan for you to doubt me. But when both happened, yes. I planned to protect myself, the only way a black woman from the projects learns to do with intelligence and irrefutable evidence. Kesha picked up her purse and walked toward the door. Oliver, you had a chance to know who I really was. Instead, you chose to see only your own limitations. As the door closed behind Kesha, Oliver realized he had lost much more than an employee. He had lost the opportunity to recognize greatness when it was right in front of her, disguised as simplicity and humility. 6 months later, Kesha Washington sat in his new office in downtown Chicago with a panoramic view of Blackstone Tower, now sporting a for sale sign at the entrance. Oliver's company had been dissolved after the federal investigation. Jessica got 2 years in prison for money laundering and aggravated racial discrimination. Amanda and Rita were fired and were facing labor lawsuits filed by other former employees who felt encouraged by the case. Miss Washington, said Dr. Patricia Coleman, director of the University of Chicago's Social Justice Program. His testimony was instrumental in reshaping our hiring policies. I would like to formally invite you to take on the coordination of the new Labor Rights Center. Kesha grinned. Recalling Donna Rose's remarks from the previous day, her grandmother, Mia, is up there proudly watching as you turn pain into purpose. The center she now oversaw offered free support to employees who had experienced discrimination, and in just 6 months, they had already won 15 cases and obtained over $2 million in compensation for impacted families. The irony, Kesha commented to Marcus Thompson during a consultation, is that Oliver gave him exactly what he needed: national visibility and legal credibility. When the case made headlines, universities and organizations started coming to him. Marcus laughed. And Jessica, does he still think you are the problem? Jessica is learning about discrimination the hard way. Apparently, ex-convicts don't get jobs easily. Who knew? In the community where she grew up, Kasha had established the Dolores Washington program, a free health clinic funded by the damages she had won. More than 300 families now had access to medication and regular medical treatment. "And Kesha," shouted Tommy, now 12, running toward her during the inauguration of the new pediatric wing. "My mum said you saved our family." "No, Tommy." Kesha knelt beside his side. "You saved yourselves. I just gave you the tools." Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, Oliver Blackstone was waiting tables at a downtown restaurant. He had lost everything. His company, his properties, his bank accounts frozen by the IRS. But by some strange twist of fate, he had discovered something that money had never given him: real purpose. "Oliver," said the manager, "there's a customer at table 7 specifically asking for you." He turned and saw Kesha sitting alone reading a medical report. "I came for coffee," she said calmly as he approached. "I heard you've learned to make it well, Kesha." Oliver began. "No need to apologize again. We've already done that." She looked him in the eye. "I came because I heard you're working with homeless families on the weekends." Oliver nodded. "It's the least I can do." "I have a proposal. The center needs volunteers with experience in administration. It's unpaid, of course, but it's a chance to use his mistakes to build something better." For a moment, Oliver saw something he didn't expect in Kesha's eyes. Not forgiveness, but an opportunity for redemption based on actions, not words. "Why would you do that for me?" "I'm not doing it for his benefit," Kesha replied. "I'm doing it for the community. And because my grandmother always said that the best revenge isn't to destroy those who hurt you. It's to turn that pain into power to help those in need." 3 months later, during the graduation ceremony for another class of young people who had benefited from the Sense educational program, Kasha received the Citizen of the Year award from the city. "2 years ago," she said into the microphone, looking out at the packed audience, "I was just a cleaning lady who some people thought didn't know his place. I oversee a center today that has transformed hundreds of lives and demonstrated that we are exactly where we choose to be." In the audience, Oliver applauded silently. Now a volunteer coordinator for the social reintegration program. Jessica watched on TV from prison, where she discovered firsthand what it's like to be judged by her appearance. The difference between revenge and justice, Kesha concluded, is that revenge destroys. Justice builds, and building has always been more powerful than destroying. Today, the Dolores Washington Center is a national reference in labor rights. Kesha never cleaned an office again, but she never forgot where she came from. Because sometimes the greatest revolution is a black woman from the suburbs proving that intelligence, dignity, and determination are the only credentials that really matter. What about you? Have you ever underestimated someone based on appearances? Have you ever been underestimated and turned that into fuel for his success? Tell her story in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that the best revenge is always to exceed all the expectations that others have tried to place on.